Here's a number of videos that aren't being shown to damn near anybody and or absolutely no one on TikTok.
Do you guys remember when Cobra took over television in G.I. Joe episode The Wrong Stuff? Roadblock tries to tune into the news, but every channel has been replaced by Cobra Television Network.
This is the Cobra Television Network.
The first show has a very clear message to the viewer.
Don't trust anybody. I could be your neighbor.
The next show is Cobra's ripoff of the A-Team.
Sense the C-Team, starring Mr. C.
I pity the fool that doesn't join Cobra. I pity him.
It's a joke, right? A videotape.
No siree, Bob, Duke. That's real TV.
All the channels are like that.
Next, the Joes watch a televised interview with Cobra Commander.
So, when did you first discover you wanted to rule the world?
I was 6 when I realized I could run society better than the morons who were in charge.
That old, huh?
Slow learner, I guess.
This new era in television is only the beginning. Cobra!
We also see a Cobra ripoff of King Kong with another explicit message for the viewer.
You can never win if your enemy is bigger and stronger than you.
Cobra Commander explains how he altered the ending of the movie and how he will use the medium of television for propaganda.
You changed the ending?
Yes, to promote Cobra's social philosophy.
Baroness is skeptical about how this is possible.
How was this accomplished?
Computers, of course. Voice and picture synthesis.
Amazing.
Cobra plans to hide from the Joes and beam their programs to their satellites to avoid interference.
Because G.I. Joe will never find us here, and we can beam our programs to our satellite with no interference.
Cobra Commander then explains how television is the ultimate weapon of control, because people trust it.
I would feel more secure if the Joe's activities were under control.
You lack imagination, Destro. We possess the ultimate weapon of control. People trust television. It's their friend. They believe what television tells them about the news, the weather, or G.I. Joe. Don't you see? We control the creation of truth.
You and I are living through some strange times, so as a reminder, most people out there will rope you in with a smile. They'll pretend that they're absolutely, the nicest person under the sun, and they have your best interest in mind, so they'd like your attention as well, and most of you give it to them. Now, because of that, because of these polarizing positive vibes only, and just how phony most of these people are, because they're lying to people, typically speaking, by circulating propaganda, I've been quite the opposite. I'm not so nice, and I tell you the truth. The interesting thing, what I want you to take away is, most people don't give a fuck what I have to say, but they sure are interested, and they really want me to conduct myself like these kids. The phony smiles, the packs of lies, the outright propaganda. It's not who I am. Doesn't benefit us. What the fuck do I know? Have you ever seen that film, Idiocracy? Eat good, do good! This is the best somebody could come up with. Now I'm going to show you something. It has to do with why people do this. And you probably assume this is peace. It's not. But assume I'm wrong. What I'm going to show you next, you've probably heard of. You might have read the book. You might have seen the movie. Maybe you did both. You never know. The fellow who wrote the book, he worked for the propaganda ministry, for the lack of better words. I think it's worded differently, but he was an agent of propaganda. You and I live in a consent-based system, so we're told what's coming, how things work here and there, mixed in with propaganda. And a number of other things, because you and I are supposed to do the right fucking thing instead of digesting the latest entertainment. But people don't understand such things, which is why most people march in lockstep and will quite literally repeat anything. So I punched in 1984, cover of movie. And you see something on the movie. Well, on the cover, that is, on these numerous iterations of it. You see an X in this one and a V. You do see the V up top, do you not? This is something our masters use all the fucking time. All the fucking time. There's so many examples. I've never heard somebody bring this up, and it makes me laugh, because this is 1984, which, again, I'm banking on you understanding, the resonance behind my voice having to do with this. You still see the symbolism with the orientation of these, lines. I don't know what angle that is. I'm not so great at that, but just the same, it's a V. In the 80s, the one that I usually rattle off is V, movie, TV show, 80s. About bullshit lizards, things like that. Once again, our masters are using the same symbolism. You see this all over the fucking place. Celebrities wearing V-shaped necklaces. And it's going to be dressed up as something that it's not, but it happens often. This is shit now. Not what I'm looking for. Google's a tool of propaganda. It used to bring up what I'm talking about. Now it shows me this. Out of the gates, mind you. I could keep scrolling for days until I hit the bottom of the internet, allegedly. And maybe we'd finally see some celebrities with what I'm looking for, but instead, here's more search results. I shouldn't have to click on this because I'm looking for something. And I'm going to give up on this one, but you'll see stuff like this. And celebrities happen to be wearing these things. You're also told that, the symbol I showed you is the symbol of peace. What does the peace symbol look like? I've talked about this a lot, so if you guys have never heard me talk about this, look up some of the other videos. I've left so many fucking things online, and people do not use what I teach them as a tool. These are the two things that are shopped around. And what I pointed out the other day, which I've been sitting on for fucking ever, is this looks like what we're talking about, right? But you're also told that this is the peace symbol. Does that make sense to you? You would imagine that it should probably be, the other way around, if this is the peace symbol. But you see, what I like to tell people and remind them is that this is the cross of Nero. Another way it's dressed up is this is the end of man. It's pretty telling. But if you're a superficial internet baby and you knock out a Google search, it's probably going to tell you that this symbolism comes from Woodstock and it's dressed up under a phony narrative having to do with olive oil, which I've said one too many times. Or you'll hear another equally ridiculous story about nuclear arms and disarming them, and that's where this symbol came from. However, the cross of Nero predates all of that by a long shot. The sigil of the end of man predates all of that by a long shot. And those are just two examples I'm throwing out there to contrast the propaganda people were told, sold, urged to repeat, and most people will defend. What the fuck do I know? Here's something that people should be thinking about, since most people use social media, myself included. This is the keywords. These are the keywords I used because initially when I asked Google, I didn't state primary, but it went well out of its way to try to dance around the subject matter and tell me that there aren't any primary investors. I didn't ask if there were primary investors. So you can take a screenshot if you want, and this is what yielded what I'm showing you here. As it reads, major social media applications such as Facebook, dead, TikTok, China, and Reddit are not primarily funded by Israeli interests. So once again, it's telling me that, but that's not what I asked. But some have received investments from individuals or venture capital firms with Israeli backgrounds, or who have expressed support for Israel. Guilty by association. The primary funding for these large global, and there's your propaganda having to do with physics-defying nonsense, and keep in mind the pseudo-intellectual flat earth, neither of those, you can't use either of them as a tool. But most people haven't figured that out. Hegelian dialectic mean anything to you? Back to point. Global platforms comes from a diverse international base of investors and their business operations, advertising revenue, blah, blah, blah. Now, as always, if you follow the money and you consider who these people are in league with and who is financing social media, it is not in place to benefit you and I. It is, however, in place to manipulate you and I. But then again, that was outlined in a Davos panel over 30 years ago. Nobody knows this. Even though the Davos panel provides the public with a public transcript each and every single goddamn year. As always, what the fuck do I know? I'm just trying to help you, and I'm censored on the DARPA internet. Why did I call it the DARPA internet? Because the internet comes from DARPA. Did the initial makings of the internet begin with DARPA? You with me? I had somebody the other day tell me they didn't understand. For lack of better words, keep in mind I'm paraphrasing. In summary of a superficial internet baby, not worth their salt. So you need to look up the Tavistock Institute, you need to look up what eugenics is, and understand both of them are connected and they're firmly rooted in fascist ideology. You probably won't see this video because I'm censored on the DARPA internet, because I'm not lying to people. This is one of many examples of something people should appreciate, because our masters understand how things work, which is why you're told the opposite. And people are sold to nurse to repeat outright packs of lies. So you'll see this in the programming a lot. And in this case, you see the gal is dressed in red and the guy is dressed in blue. I want you to think of lightsabers. I want you to think of sunset and twilight. I want you to think of the lights on top of a cop's car. And the list goes on. Magnetism and electricity, day and night, respectively. I'm watching another movie from the 80s tonight, and the same thing pops up at the beginning of the film. Let's see, maybe we can find it. You never know. Let me think here. 1980s Space Raiders, Peter's Parents. You never know. Maybe they'll show us a still image of Peter's parents. Probably not. I'll probably have to record a video when I scroll back. I'm having flashbacks. The reason I was looking at that cartoon is I was trying to remember where I know this little boy from. I remember these too. At least I think I do. Weird. I'm having a lot of flashbacks. This kid. That's what led me to the cartoon, which I do remember. I just forgot about, which is what I was showing you the still from. And this is the film that the kid popped up in. And at the very beginning, his mom's dressed in red and his dad's dressed in blue. They're quite vibrant. It's pretty fucking obvious. And it's also a theme in the programming. And it was for quite a while. Now it's flipped. And sometimes you will see it, flipped, quite literally. The dudes will end up in the red and the gals will end up in the blue. It's our masters laughing at us in a number of ways. You're not supposed to understand how things work. Because if you did, you could use it as a tool. And you also wouldn't buy into the propaganda that people are sold in order to repeat, which is why you and I have access to the DARPA internet, why we've been trained to use social media. It's also why social media is free. It's why you were trained to carry a cell phone. And the list goes on. I complain about this often. Most of you probably aren't going to bother watching any other videos in any of the accounts that I moderate across the DARPA internet. But if you do, I could teach you things you're not supposed to know, which would help you and I both if more people pulled their heads out of their asses. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter's Parents. Well, in a second. I've muted it, but yeah. You see what I see, do you not? Despite the weird tint now that happens when I record videos sometimes, it does vary, but just the same. pretty fucking obvious. Good job, Google. So, what got me on this whole track tonight, not the usual thing that I usually complain about, having to do with the color schemes and the fact people are blissfully unaware of how reality works anymore. One of the first times I remember playing Legend of Zelda, I was at one of my old friends' houses, and prior to us ending up doing this that night and the following morning before I got picked up from a sleepover, his mom took us to a video store, and we picked out some movies. And I remember two of them were space propaganda, and I think there was three of them, but I might be wrong. Sometimes I mix it up with, there was another birthday party sleepover with a different friend of mine, but that's when Space Invaders came out. Spaced Invaders, 80s movie. Stupid fucking movie. So this had to be, no, this is strange. It should be Spaced, if I recall. Yeah, this dumb fucking movie. Yeah, so this was in the 90s. Yeah, so well after that. That's what I thought, but I couldn't remember for sure. Either way, so I've been trying to find one of these old space propaganda films that I remember watching, and I can't remember if it was this one or another one. The main dude that plays Hawk in the film that I already highlighted, it just doesn't hit right, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong. I mean, I was a kid, but yeah. That's what led me down this track to show you the cartoon and this jazz having to do with this kid. Appreciate that the kid that plays Peter, he was in two projects, both of which highlight dudes in blue, gals in red. It's quite a coincidence, but it crops up a lot if you're paying attention. If you hung out, thanks for hanging out. I was going to rattle off something else, but yeah, what the fuck do I know? Red and blue.